Good evening. Have you ever wondered what a conductor does? We come out here, we wave our arms, the music happens. Clearly, they didn't need me to start the piece. They didn't need me to stay together, but there's something enhanced in this collaboration. Early in music education, if you ever tried to learn an instrument at a young age, you might remember your music teacher looking a little like an air traffic controller. Trying to keep them together. They've got to watch. We're hoping they play the right notes. Hey-ya. And then, as they mature and they learn, the sound refines and the gesture can match. And then with a little coordination and rehearsal behind the scenes, even something as simple as a major scale can sound musical. This is a craft I've been practicing for a long time. Wingardium Leviosa. No, just kidding. Music is magic, though, isn't it? But it's just a medium. And early in my career, I remember really digging into the repertoire, into the scores, and doing all that musical study, which is important. But at some point, I realized that while I am a music conductor who presumably conducts music, I'm ultimately a much more effective conductor if I focus on the fact that I'm conducting people. Tonight, I'm going to teach you how to be conductors. It's about energy. Would you allow me to demonstrate with you as my ensemble? Excellent. You're hired. All right. I can't see you very well, but go ahead and make some sound. Any sound, drum around you, clap, make something auditory. That's great. Now we'll do it together, and I'm going to show you some direction in between the start and the stop. So when the baton, this little stick, points to you, go ahead and increase your volume. Ready? Here we go. Very intuitive. You did a great job. So we had to start. We had to stop. We had some direction in between. That's a lot of energy. So forget about music and think about energy. Energy is something we all have. We all need it, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual. And so how do we work with this? It's something we're actually emitting out into the world all the time as well. The young people like to use the word vibes, and I think that's really appropriate. So when I'm looking at a piece of music, I'm looking for these moments that there might be some sort of energetic interaction. In the little excerpt that we played at the beginning, there were 72 pulses, 72 counts, so that could be 72 possible places where the rhythm, melody, or harmony might do something interesting. As people, we interact all the time. If you do a deep dive into Google, you might find that the average person interacts with about 12 people per day. Less active people might interact with around 2,000 people per year, and those of us that work with people in our careers might interact with over 500,000 people in our lifetime. So think about some of the interactions that you've had in the past 24 hours, maybe the last week. There's all kinds of interactions that we experience in our everyday life. Some interactions might be planned. Many interactions are actually unplanned. Some interactions are intense. Some are pleasant. Some are social. Some are hesitant, awkward, confusing. Some are solid. And some are subtle. And while a lot of these interactions might be seemingly insignificant, As a musician who sees music as a metaphor for so many bigger things, I know that they're not. Because if I look at a piece of music, I know that all of those notes matter. And more pertinently, if I look at my ensemble, I know that all of these people matter. So if we take another piece of music, Sibelius's Finlandia, and I purposefully asked a student or two to hit a note just a little bit sourly, see if you can tell. You probably don't know the song, or maybe you do, but you could tell that third note, not quite there. Now if we play it correctly. And so with that concerted effort to make something beautiful, we all matter, even if it seems like we're doing something that's a little bit small. So be the conductor in your life and find those moments where you can engage with that energy that we're always emitting and where you can contribute with your interaction. We practice a lot of gestures as conductors. Sometimes I prepare a lot before rehearsal, but most of what I do in the rehearsal might actually be reactive, finding moments to make space for the less obvious voice or for breath in the music. There's also a piece of conducting, though, that has nothing to do with all this or all the preparation. It's just about what it means to be a person. Years ago, I had the opportunity to conduct at an international music festival at Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles. I happened to be working at a high school nearby at the time, and we got a phone call from a touring agency. There were 3 schools from China that wanted to come over to the US, rent out this amazing place, and play American music alongside an American band. So we said, that sounds pretty cool. We'll do that, yep. And we did. And the event was beautiful. The 3 bands from China performed first. They played a lot of really fun music. They played the Beach Boys, Phantom of the Opera, film soundtracks. They had choreography while they were playing, and it was all very technically perfect. I don't know if our music was quite as polished, to tell you the truth, but I'm really proud about what we did that day. The piece that I conducted was entitled An American Elegy. I chose this piece for 2 reasons. The first is it's composed by Frank Tekeli, who's a living and local composer. Frank Tekeli is a professor at the University of California, Southern California, excuse me. And the other reason that I chose this piece is because it was personal to me. An American Elegy was commissioned after the 1999 Columbine shooting in memory of the victims and the survivors. I know this piece well because I'm from Littleton, Colorado, and I remember that day, I remember how it affected my community, and I remember how I would learn that it affected the world as I grew older. I would later on go on to study with some of the people that were responsible for bringing this piece to life. And so when I had the opportunity to choose an American piece, this to me was one that was quite profound. Although the event that the piece was written for is quite haunting, Tekeli transforms it into something beautiful and makes it about hope. And I don't know how refined my gestures were as a young conductor all those years ago, but I do know that the music came through, because after the event, all 3 of the directors from China came up to me independently, and while we couldn't understand each other's language, they asked me about that piece, and I could see the emotion had washed over their faces, and they understood that that was something real, that there was an artistry there that meant something. And so that day, music transcended all language barriers. As conductors, we can practice many gestures. We can prepare for the planned, for the unplanned. We can strive to react in ways that are compassionate and graceful for the unexpected. We can make space for those less obvious voices and give breath to the music. The world's become very loud, hasn't it? And many of our interactions are a little bit manufactured. But if we can find that place of authenticity and really come from it, I think we'll find that we not only are able to speak our stories, but hear the stories of others and really find some truth. And by engaging in that energy, in the interactions and the authenticity, we might just find ourselves living in more beautiful moments more often.